Hello, what's going on, everyone? My name's Colin, semicolon, uh, Brez, whatever you want to call me, as usual, doesn't matter. Today, we've got a wonderful video, and we are going to be going in depth in inscription and jewel crafting and taking a deep dive look as to what I'm doing to make money with these professions in Dragonflight. Now, there's a couple expectations or just kind of things I want to get out of the way from the get go. So, number one is going to be buying the crafting materials versus crafting the crafting materials. So, I'm going to be talking about this multiple times throughout the video. So, buying the crafting materials is pretty straightforward. It's just going to be buying the materials off the auction house. The second one is going to be crafting the crafting materials. So, for example, that could be chilled runes. To craft chilled runes, you need some additional crafting materials that can also be crafted. So, you can increase profitability by crafting the materials that you need to craft other items. And then finally, one important thing with gold making and jewel crafting if you are going to be working in the commodity market. And I want to clarify now as well that I almost entirely work only in the commodity market. I don't really do work orders or crafting orders. So you won't find information about that type of gold making here. But with the commodity market is going to be maxing out your profession stats like multi-craft, resourcefulness, and crafting speed. So, what I recommend in all cases is to ensure that you are getting the highest level crafting tool you can possibly get with the highest level stats. Make sure that you are using a resourcefulness tool on crafts that don't have multi-craft. Make sure you're using a multi-craft tool on crafts that multi-craft matters. Those types of things are going to ensure maximum profitability. It also, in a lot of cases, can make or break whether an item is profitable no matter what. So definitely look into those things before you get into any major crafting. So first things first, I want to take a look at is just the knowledge point tree in Inscription. So the knowledge point tree has a lot of different options to make some money, and you can actually get this tree to the point where you're making money within a day. So, for example, let's just say you wanted to start off with something a bit more basic but profitable. You could get a bunch of points into um, like understanding flora along with rune mastery. So what this would do is understanding flora is going to give you additional skill for milling herbs, and milling herbs alone can be extremely profitable. Like hawk and bloom, just milling hawk and bloom can sometimes be 30k an hour. So you could like max out understanding flora so that you can immediately start turning some profit. Now, what my recommendation would be, whether you want to go to start doing milling or you want to go into inking. So if you wanted to go into inking, you would go flawless inks. But my recommendation would be is to max out like rune mastery and then either understanding flora or inks. You could probably even do all of them together in a single day as well. There's a lot of knowledge points out there to be had now. But once you max out one of them, I would strongly recommend immediately going for maxing out resourcefulness. Resourcefulness is going to be an extremely important stat for profitability, especially with something like milling, because multi-craft does not matter with milling. So you want to have as much resourcefulness as possible. Um, and then on the contrary, if you are going to be going with something like inking, you might want to look for anything that's going to give you additional multi-craft. But nonetheless, even resourcefulness is still going to be extremely important for inking or any other type of crafting you're going to do. So if you weren't wanting to do inking or milling, one other option you would have would be going into archiving and then coming all the way down and maxing out contracts and missives. Those are another couple of items that are extremely profitable, almost always profitable, to be totally honest with you. And I would definitely recommend getting this tree filled out. And then lastly is going to be rune binding. So rune binding typically is the tree for gear crafting within Inscription, but there are some options for commodities within this tree as well. So if you max out your rune binding specialization first, and then you come down to wood carving and max that out, that'll actually give you additional skill in crafting like ruined writhe bark, so that your ruined writhe bark crafts become more profitable. Because with something like ruined writhe bark, you are kind of hoping to get inspiration procs to have rank 3 ruined writhe bark. There's no way to guarantee a rank 3, so a lot of the profit comes from those procs to rank 3. And then on the other side, with runic scripture, you can go into Vantis runes and Fauna runes, and this will increase your skill with. So Vantis runes is going to be for the raid, to give people extra stats on a single boss, and then Fauna runes are like the buzzing, chirping, and howling runes that raiders are going to use for weapon enchants and just increased stats. So those are kind of all the routes you can take with knowledge points in Inscription. And if I had to recommend one particular route to get started, I would highly recommend going Rune Mastery and getting inks and milling going. This is something that, again, you can pretty much do nonstop and turn a profit. And then followed by that, I do think contracts and missives are always extremely good. The sell rate on these, like missives, will always sell, and they're almost always profitable. I literally, for the first time, saw a missive that wasn't profitable today. But there's so many of the different missives, right? Like you have all of the main stat missives, so the um, you know, Fever Flare, Fire Flash, Harmonious, Peerless, yada yada yada. But then you also have a bunch of crafting and gathering missives that you can do as well. Now, these sometimes aren't as profitable or have as good of a sell rate as the main stat missives, but they are still certainly profitable. All right, so what you're seeing here is a breakdown I did with chilled runes to use as an example. So on the left side, I have chilled runes being crafted using crafting materials I bought off of the auction house. And on the right side, I have chilled runes that I am crafting, and the method was crafting the crafting materials I need to craft. So I unraveled Frostbitten Wilder Cloth to get the Rousing Frost, and then I crafted the Serene Ink to finally craft the chilled runes. Now, on screen, you can see the total value for the crafts that I did. And in this particular example, you could see that it really wasn't that valuable to me to or sorry, it wasn't that valuable for me to craft the crafting materials I need to craft, because it only resulted in a few thousand additional gold profit, and it required a bunch of extra time to go through the unraveling process. So again, in this particular scenario, it wasn't the most beneficial thing for me to do. But there are most definitely times where the profit difference you can see between these two is much, much greater and much more worth it. But I really wanted to just highlight the process between the two, one being crafting the crafting materials you need to craft, and the other being just buying them off the auction house, so you can really see how the different processes can change the type of profit that you make. Okay, so we've reviewed Inscription and we're about to dive into jewel crafting, but I think that this is a good time to kind of cover what selling commodities looks like. So obviously with crafting orders or work orders, you would just be perusing trade chat or actually looking at the crafting order queue to see if anybody's submitted a public order. Um, but with commodities, it's all about the auction house. And this is where it can really make or break your profitability. So, with commodities, you want to be posting on the auction house as much as you possibly can. So, I have two accounts. And so, on my main account here, this is basically like my bank character, or it has become my bank character. And I do all of, or a good chunk of my crafting on this character, and then I do all of my auctioning from all of my other characters. I send most of my stuff or all of the commodities to this character. And while I'm doing my crafting or whatever I'm doing, usually I will be sitting here at the auction house. And as I'm going about my crafting, I will be regularly doing post scans to the auction house to relist my items. Now, on top of that is you also want to be continually cancel scanning to get undercut items off the auction house so that you can continue keeping the auction house stocked with your items at the top. The way the auction house is first in, first out. So you want to make sure you're the most recent person to be posting every single item that you're selling. And kind of in line with that is going to be how much of an item do you post at a time? So for a lot of the commodities I have, I post in stacks of 3, stacks of 2, stacks of 6, or stacks of 50. So things that are stacks of 3 would be like gems, for example. The most gems a person could put on a single item would be their neck piece, and that could be up to 3 gems. And so I found that that's a pretty comfortable number to post gems at. And then for things that are stacks of 50, that would be like my runed writhe bark or chilled runes. And then actually with stacks of 3 is also going to be missives and contracts as well. So I don't post more than just a few of these items at any given time, because if I were to post like 100 contracts every single time I go through my post scan, number one, I would have to either cancel scan every single time, and also number two, I would be spending so much additional gold on deposit costs that I know I'm not going to get back, because I know I'm not going to sell 100 contracts within the next few minutes before somebody else undercuts me. So, uh, with the region wide auction house, you could probably copy these stack sizes that I'm using, but I would also recommend to play with it yourself. You might find that stacks of 3 for gems isn't as beneficial, and it's actually more profitable to do stacks of 5 or 6. Or you might find that stacks of 3 is too many and you want to do stacks of 1 or stacks of 2. So I would definitely recommend playing with it to find a comfortable spot for yourself. And then the final note I want to leave on in regards to the whole auctioning process is, um, one thing you should definitely do is, if you are going to be getting off the game for any period of time. So I will do all of my post scanning every couple of minutes as I'm playing. But if I'm getting off to go to bed, for example, I will post everything I have, basically, with the hopes that the next morning when I wake up, all of it has sold. And I would highly recommend doing this, because there are plenty of times when I have posted 100 plus missives of each different type of missive on the auction house and logged in the next morning and all of them have sold. Same with inks, for example, burnished ink. I will sell in stacks of 500. Um, but when I'm getting off for the night, I will just post 11,000 burnished ink. And it doesn't sell all the time, but occasionally I wake up the next morning and I have like 200,000 gold in my mailbox. So I would highly recommend to post everything you have when you are getting off. And then I guess this is a second final note in terms of auction house. Um, I would really recommend, when you go through and you do your crafting and restocking. So, for example, with gems is a great example. Um, the price of gems can fluctuate so quickly. So, if I go through and I do a stock on gems, I will not, uh, or I will do my best to not log off until I have finished selling through that entire stock of gems. If I do have to log off. It is what it is. Hopefully, I've made some profit, but you certainly want to do your best to only restock what you know you can sell through in that session. If you restock more than what you can sell through in that session, it's definitely a high chance that you'll lose gold in the long run. Okay, and let's lastly take a look at jewel crafting. So to get us started in jewel crafting, we are just going to dive into knowledge points. So for commodity crafting within jewel crafting, you have a couple of options. Option number one would be uh, prospecting. So that's actually not like commodity crafting per se, but it is a fairly good profit source. And again, you can just prospect or even better, you can or crush rare rank 3 gems into silken gem dust. So if you get your knowledge points high enough, you can actually get to a point where you can guarantee rank 3 silken gem dust with rank 3 rare gems. And you definitely want to do that if you were going to do this type of shuffle. Now, just keep in mind with prospecting, it is a half AFK, half not type of gold making source. So essentially what that means is you can do 200 prospects or 200 crushes before you have to kind of refresh the item in the prospecting or crushing menu. So you can get the crushing started and then do whatever for a few minutes while it goes through that process, and then start a new set of gems to crush or to prospect. And then looking at the other side at glasswares, this is going to be another great one for gold making, and this is going to impact prisms. It's also going to impact draconic files. So draconic files are definitely something that can be profitable, especially if you're going to do the prospecting and you prospect and get all of, or my apologies, the gem crushing, and you get all the silken gem dust, and then you take that silken gem dust and convert it into draconic files. It's going to be much more profitable. Again, that goes into the your crafting materials you need for crafting. So you could go this route and get points into both of these trees, or just one or the other to start. I would, if you were going to pick one or the other, I would recommend going prospecting, because it does take a while to get glassware profitable, because it's also going to rely on your actual main skill level in the profession to increase profitability. We're quickly going to pop over to Jeweler's Toolset Mastery, just because I do want to highlight once again, getting the resourcefulness is unbelievably important for profit. And so if you do max out enterprising and then prospecting, your next bet would be saving silvers to get that resourcefulness up. We love resourcefulness, and we want every single bit we can get. So kind of the big main star of the show is going to be faceting within jewel crafting. Now, the way gems sell, as I've mentioned earlier, is it is unpredictable when you start, but as you get used to the jewel crafting and gem crafting, it becomes more and more predictable. My recommendation would be, if you are looking to get into gem crafting, set your sights on being prepared for when season 4 of Dragonflight launches. So, with these gems, for example, number one, I would recommend maxing out each individual gem before moving on to the next. So, max out air gems before you start putting points into earth, fire, or frost. And then once you've maxed out the next one, again, max it out before dumping points into any other gem. The reason for that is the rank 3 gems are the only ones that are going to be worth crafting for profit in jewel crafting. So we will just quickly go look at a random gem. And so in this particular scenario, we can see that the rank 3 gem is the most expensive. In some cases, you'll see that the rank 2 is more expensive than the rank 3, or even far exceeds the price of the rank 3 gem. But nobody is going to sell the rank 2 gem. Just look at the number of available between the rank 3 and the rank 2. There's 90 available at the rank 2 and 1400 at the rank 3. That can be one indicator of what sells and what doesn't. So you are always going to want to craft the rank 3 gems, even if the rank 2 is more profitable. Nobody's going to buy it. So you want to guarantee rank 3. And the only way to do that really is going to be by maxing out these trees. I don't know that you have to go the full 40 out of 40. I believe just to get the full 40 out of 40 is for the skillful, or not skillful, but the limited version of each type of diamond. But make sure you use craft sim and simulation mode. You'll have to use rank 3 of the base gem, and once you can guarantee a rank 3 of the crafted gem, you can start putting points into the next set of gems. So I kind of already alluded to this with this Keniltherite, but I really want to stress how important it is with jewel crafting, and this is actually going to go for all different crafting professions, but jewel crafting is a very good one to highlight this particular thing. So right now with Elemental Harmony, we see that the rank 3 is the most expensive, followed by the rank 1 and rank 2. Just like the Keniltherite previously, a lot of times with the Elemental Harmonies, you'll see that the rank 2 is much more expensive and worth a lot more than the rank 3. But this, again, with the Keniltherite, goes to, you need to look and see what people are buying. So we can see in the availability, there's 14,000 of the rank 3 elemental harmonies and only 676 of the rank 2 elemental harmonies. Now, in this particular case, that makes sense because the rank 3 is the most expensive. But even if the rank 2 was more expensive, we would not see the number of rank 2 elemental harmonies on the auction house skyrocket, because everybody knows nobody's going to buy a rank 2 elemental harmony, or at least it's very unlikely. I'm sure people do sell or buy rank 2 elemental harmonies, and this is the perfect example. It is a little bit cheaper than the rank 3, but for the most part, people are only going to buy the rank 3s. So another thing with looking at the available quantities, because you can see that there's 14,000 of the rank 3s and only 600 of the rank 2s, that kind of tells you that people are crafting elemental harmonies and guaranteeing a rank 3 craft. So if you're going to craft elemental harmonies, for example, you would want to ensure that you are crafting them at guaranteed rank 3. And what you can do with Craft Sim is you can assign the different gem qualities. So, like, to achieve a rank 3 guaranteed craft for me right now, I would use rank 2 Alexstrasite and Malachite. I would use rank 3 Emerald and Neltherite, and rank 3 Nosdorite, and then rank 1 Primal Convergent. And that's just to optimize profitability. Now, even here, you can see that as of right now, it's not profitable. But if I were to craft the crafting materials needed to craft, it certainly would be profitable. And that would simply just be crafting the primal convergence. So for profitability within jewel crafting, what can you craft to make some money? As I mentioned earlier, draconic vials are always going to be a good one. Empty soul cages typically will have some profit. However, the sell rate on these is not fantastic. Frameless lens and glossy stones, and lastly, shimmering clasps. Those are all crafting materials that you certainly should craft, especially once you get to the point where you can guarantee the rank 3 craft. Now, with some of these lower level crafting reagents, again, the frameless lens, glossy stone, and shimmering clasp, those are not going to have a crazy high sell rate, so I wouldn't craft like 3,000 of these particular things at a single time and just dump them all on the auction house. You're only going to sell a handful before somebody undercuts you, and also just selling several thousand would take a while. So you absolutely should craft these for profit, especially if you're starting out. Um, but I would include these in on like a crafting operation or auctioning operation where you only post like 10 or 20 or 30 at a time. You'll have to play with the numbers until you find a comfortable spot for the number to post at any given time. Um, Lastly, with jewel crafting, there are going to be some additional things you can do, like the jeweled whelplings. So you could cruise around the Dragon Isles collecting treasures, the dirt piles, and also the expedition packs. Those have a chance to drop a map, just like this one in my inventory here. It's obviously, it wouldn't be called a guide to rare fish. It would have some random generic name. But when you use the treasure map and you go find the treasure, you'll get the recipe and one of these gems, depending on the type of recipe you receive. So, just getting some battle pets on the auction house is another great way to have some steady passive income. So, you could certainly farm this out. And then there's going to be some novelties. So there's going to be different pets and some different things that you can craft within jewel crafting. And then lastly, like profession equipment. So I've mentioned I don't I don't do this stuff. Um, but you certainly can for gold for profit. So you could get this profession equipment crafted and just make sure you keep the auction house stocked with several of these different profession equipment pieces. Just make sure that you do the rank 5 quality. Um, and that'll be another way that you can have some money coming in. So if you were to pick up both of these professions, inscription and jewel crafting, and you got started by putting a few points into like prospecting within jewel crafting and maybe like contracts and missives within inscription, you could start to have a steady stock of items that you're posting onto the auction house. Um, Now, the profit on all of those items, right, isn't massive. So the margins are usually around 10 to 20 gold. So if you're crafting something that has a profit of 10 gold per craft, that doesn't seem that big when you just mention the one item. But when you've got 10 different items that you've crafted and all of them are anywhere between 5 to 15 to 20 gold profit per craft, and you're just keeping the auction house stocked with these items and you're posting as much as you can, the amount of gold you make starts to grow tremendously. And that's a really good way to kind of get started. So, my recommendation would be pick up these two professions, go get every single knowledge point treasure around the Dragon Isles, including um, what's that zone? That new zone? Oh gosh, Zeralet Cavern and Emerald Dream. Zeralet Cavern and Emerald Dream combined have 6 total knowledge point treasures just themselves, not counting all the other ones strewn across the Dragon Isles. And then go to the knowledge point vendor in Valdraken, get the 30 knowledge points per profession. Go to the Loam Niffin Quartermaster, get the 10 knowledge points there. If you were to get all of those knowledge points, you would have, I think, over 100 knowledge points per profession that you could get started in. And I guarantee you that's enough to start turning a profit if you get resourcefulness maxed out, you get the tools set up. So, again, that's going to be rare quality tools, fully upgraded. Have your main tool enchanted with plus 45 additional resourcefulness. This is the type of min maxing stuff you need to do, but you could start turning a profit immediately. And I'd be really curious to hear how this works for you if you are trying this method to make some gold. So please let me know in the comments if you get started. Come back, let me know how it's been going for you, or if you have any additional questions about these professions or any other professions that you've seen me work on. I'd be more than happy to answer those questions. And then lastly, I think if you have any other feedback or would like to see anything else, please let me know as well. You can catch me on my stream. It's twitch.tv/semicolon23. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you found some value within this video, and I hope it's inspired you to go out and start making some gold. So again, yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.